Hey everyone, it's Jessica Michaels here with another Cherry on Top Technique Tuesday for you. I'm pairing this up with Scrap Timber's prompt today, which is to use a sketch. So I've chosen this one by Paper Issues that has lots of texture, as that is this month's theme, is texture. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways you can add texture to your layout or project. So I've got a 12 by 12 scrapbook page here today, and I also have the fall cherry box, which I absolutely love. It's jam-packed and loaded with 49 Markets vintage orchard collection, and I am just loving this box so much. Believe it or not, I did not have this collection before I grabbed the cherry box, so I was super excited that this was featured in the fall box, and it has all these gorgeous papers in here that I absolutely love. It's got textured paper. Well, it looks textured. It's actually smooth to touch, but it looks like textured burlap, and I just absolutely adore it. And I am just adding some texture in the first way here by using the sketch to kind of guide me, and I am just using some strips of paper here that I'm going to line down my page in like a vertical design, and I am just distressing the edges. I'm also tearing a piece for the bottom here because the sketch design had a little piece torn at the very bottom, so I'm doing the same thing. And then I am just using my edge distresser here to rough up all of my edges before I tape all of these down to my white cardstock here. So super easy and simple to do. If you don't have an edge distresser, you can use your fingernails or you can use the edge of your scissors. So super easy to do. You don't need any special tools to add texture to your layouts or projects. It's just very easy. And I'm just finishing up the last strip here. I'm just going to do a couple strips here. I'm going to leave a little bit of space in the middle. I'm going to add a large photo instead of 2 photos. I'm using one large one. I print these big ones at 3.5 by 5. And I think they're actually a tiny bit smaller because I have a feature on my printer to kind of shrink them down just a tad to fit them into the frame, whatever the orientation of the actual photo is. So I think it might be a little tiny bit smaller than 3.5 by 5, but that's a roundabout size. And then this kit comes with all of these little laser cut embellishments, which I don't actually think I ended up using. I kind of had an idea that I was going to go with these, and then in the end I pulled them off, and I did stick with the sketch design a little bit closer. So I'm going to actually just start gluing these down at this point. I'm just going to use my tape runner really quick and just adhere these down to my page, and then I'm going to actually run them through my Brother sewing machine, and I'm going to do some machine stitching across all of these, which is the second way to add texture to your layouts. And actually I have another way too, adding texture by using this little piece of trim, which is burlap. That adds texture as well. And then I'm going to go throw this on my sewing machine. Here is the finished product after I ran it through my sewing machine, just back and forth doing some simple stitches and some zigzag stitches. And then I've got these little chipboard pieces. These actually come in the kit as well, and I love them. You can see here my desk is a mess now at this point because I went through the ephemera pack and the chipboard pack. I've got my title down. At this point I know what I'm going to use, and I've grabbed my manual die cutting machine because the sketch had a bunch of circles in it and a nice circular design on the top and bottom to kind of flow throughout the layout. So I cut a bunch of these circles in the same patterns, and I'm just going to rough these up with my fingernails on the edges just to kind of fluff them up on the edges so they kind of pull up off my page. And that's kind of another way that you can add texture to your layouts too, is you can do some die cutting and then just kind of pull them up off of your page and rough up those edges. I've got a little envelope that comes in the little ephemera pack. I love these envelopes. You can stuff a bunch of stuff in them and it just looks like a bunch of layers, and they look really cool. And there wasn't really much going on at the bottom of my photo. It was just the table. So I decided to use that cute little envelope, and then I'm going to grab my title and put that on top of there. I've got my little circles in my various patterns here from the cherry box, and I am just roughing up those edges on all of those. And then I've grabbed a canvas flare from Scrap and Happy Studio. I think this is from her last year's fall release, if I remember right. But I took these fall photos of my baby girl when she was turning 2 at this little cute roadside like pumpkin patch, and I just thought that flare would just go perfectly with this layout. So So I've grabbed that. That is not included in the cherry box, just so you know. That's a different company, but I just loved it and I thought it would just go perfect. And I'm trying to use up my stuff here, guys. So I'm doing a little bit of stash diving on this by using some of that flair finally. My flair boxes are just overflowing. I've got one for epoxy and one for canvas flair, and they're just super overflowing. So I'm trying to make it a point to use some of them on my projects. I've got some 1/2-inch easy tear tape here that I'm using to adhere the backside of my photo, and I also glued down the bottom of that envelope since it didn't want to stick with my tape runner. And I'm just going to glue that down to my page at this point. I'm going to use a little clip up here. That's one that I ran through my manual die cutting machine as well. I have a little die from that from another company, and I am just using that at the top portion of my page along with some more circles up here. And then I'm going to grab some sequins. I've got some gorgeous sequins here by Catherine Puller. They are in the Cherry on Top shop. They're called Dodge City, and that's what I'm going to add to this layout at the very end here coming up. I've got my title here. I'm just going to go ahead and start gluing some of these pieces down. I'm just going to use my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive. I do have the metal tips on mine. They have been really helping with the clogging on the nozzle on those bottles. Usually I only get clogging on them towards the end of the bottle, but I switched to those metal precision tips and it seems to be helping out tremendously with that. So it's a really good tip if you have that issue as well. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some Distress Oxide. This is the Crackling Campfire color, and I am just using it with some stamps from my stash to just stamp a couple phrases on the top of this little label that I'm gonna put at the top of my photo to add just another little layer and touch of something up there. I love how this is coming together at this point. I love all these layers and all of this texture. Texture is one of my favorite things to add to my layout. So when I saw that was this month's theme, I was super excited. And this fall cherry box, it just made it come together so easily and quickly. I did this layout in, I think, about 30 minutes is what it took me. This is just some hemp teak twine here, or not twine, but hemp, I guess. And this is from the set, I think it's called like Aquamarine, and it has a bunch of blues and then it has that white one in there as well. So I just grabbed a piece to add to that little clippy, and then I'm just gluing down my title with that Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and I'm just gonna glue down all of these little bits and pieces. And then I'll grab my sequins here in a minute to add those as well. I'm going to actually end up gluing these tails down from this hemp as well because it's kind of wonky right now. So I'm just going to shape it a little bit and just glue it to where I want it to be. You do have to kind of hold it down a little bit for a couple seconds until it sticks down, but it works really good. This Nuvo glue is great for stuff like this because it does tend to dry pretty fast and it'll dry clear. So you can kind of leave a blob there and then it dries up clear so you don't have to worry about making a mess. So I have these little chipboard pieces in these circles. They have little phrases on them. I love these. I'm going to add a couple of those up here just to go with that circular design. And I'll trim off the other two that are kind of hanging off my page. But before I do that, I wanted to grab this Chroma Mist that comes in the cherry box. I love this color. It dries to like a nice kind of pinkish red color, and it just goes perfectly with this box. I personally have never used the Chroma Mist until now, and it just added the perfect little touch of splatter to this layout. And I really want to try some mixed media with it too, because I feel like it's going to be pretty transparent, kind of like an ink mixed media. And I really want to see how that blends on paper if I just spray it directly or use it on top of some gesso with some other colors. So that's something that I want to try in the future. Here's another way that you can add texture. I guess I've got like 5 different ways on here to add texture, but I'm going with 3 solid ways that you can add texture. This is one of my favorite ways that adds texture, is adding little bits of thread behind flare and circles and then just kind of stuffing it in places. So I did use a little bit of Nuvo glue, and I used some medium-sized glue dots to make like a glue dot sandwich behind my canvas flare in that thread. So that's all I like to do. And then what I like to do with my sequins here is just kind of sprinkle them onto my page and let them fall wherever they want to fall. And then I just glue them down. So I'm I'm using my sequin tool here, and I am just picking them up with that. It has a wax tip on it, so it's really great for grabbing these sequins and gluing them down quickly, and it doesn't take any time at all. It took me like, I don't know, 30 seconds to glue all those down, and then here's the finished layout. I absolutely love how this one came together. I hope you guys grab this cherry box from the Cherry on Top shop. I'm going to link it down below for you. I'll also link the Scrap Timber playlist too, because I believe there's a playlist for the Scrap Timber prompts, so you can check that out as well. And then here's the close-ups. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video today, and thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.